Hello and welcome to another edition of our Staff Bikes series. I'm Jack, editor at road.cc, and I'm going to tell you as much as I can about my shiny, custom-built Ridley Helium SLX Disc. I say that because I've ridden it once and it's pretty much freshly put together. So, a bit of backstory on this bike, and first a confession. I'm well aware that in my current state of fitness I can't really justify riding a bike this fancy, but I recently had major hip surgery, and so I thought, what better way to motivate me to get cracking with my recovery than a nice new bike. Even though, as I said, this bike is pretty fancy and has some pretty serious kit on it, it wasn't quite as crazy expensive as a lot of modern superbikes. And buying it on the cycle to work scheme, I've actually managed to keep things relatively affordable. Certainly a lot less than the average person probably spends on their car every month anyway, and I know which one makes me happier. Enough about me and how I'm trying to convince myself that I really need this bike. Let's get into the build. So the frame and fork is a Ridley Helium SLX Disc. This is a 2020 model and described as a performance bike for any challenge by Ridley. I chose this because it's super light at just 780 grams for the frame. The geometry is on the sensible side for a road racing bike, and it's quite pretty with more traditional looking tubes than a lot of modern race bikes, and I really like the colour. Another big reason, if I'm being completely honest, was that I got it on a bloody good deal on the cycle to work scheme. When I was planning this build, I couldn't help but notice that Ridley had recently released the new Falcon all-round race bike, which you can read the review of on road.cc already. While I was quite tempted, the lower price of the Helium and this lovely colour scheme meant I just couldn't justify going for the newer model. The Helium SLX does everything I want it to do. It supports full internal cable routing. That's something I wanted on this build, admittedly purely for the looks, and I've never owned a bike with completely clean lines like this before. I also wanted a bike that was in between the aero and lightweight categories, and this frame set I think is ideal for that, being so light yet integrated with some small nods to aero across the frame. An aim here was to get a bike on or around the 6.8 kilo UCI weight limit without spending crazy amounts. While I know in reality that having a 7 or an 8 kilo bike is not really going to make any difference to riders like me, I just like the feeling of a light bike. The wheels I took off my previous best bike that I parted with to part fund the purchase of this one, and they are Fulcrum Speed 55 carbon wheels, shod with Continental GP5000 tyres and some Tubolito inner tubes just to save a bit more weight. The wheels are fast, the depth makes them good all-rounders, they don't push me about too much in the wind, and most importantly of all, I reckon they sound great. I may invest in some sturdy alloy wheels to use it more over the winter months next year, but for now it's only coming out on dry days, and I'm probably just going to use my trusty Trek 1.2 for any winter rides and look longingly at this bike and wait for the summer. This lovely bar stem is courtesy of Black Ink, and it is 40 centimetres wide and it has a 90mm length on the stem. I know 90mm might be a bit unfashionably short, but for me and my little arms, and calculating what reach I would need with the frame size, it's just about right for me. There's a little bit of rise underneath that stem, 28mm to be precise, and as I'm not a pro or going to be winning any sprints anytime soon, this just offers a bit of an upright and comfortable position for long days in the saddle. You may have also noticed these little rubber bungs on the top of the bars. That's because this bar stem system has the option to run tri-bars on the top. I probably won't be using them very much, but it's nice to have the option. Although I do really like the clean looks of modern carbon road bikes of the past few years, with all the cables disappearing, integrated everything, it does of course mean quite a lot of extra faff if you want to make alterations that would have been a whole lot simpler before, such as adjusting the stack or the reach. I did do my research and went off my measurements to try and ensure this bar stem was the right size for me before building the bike up. But I am considering having a proper fit and changing things down the line if need be. This is probably not the most cost efficient way of going about it, but I'm pretty confident this bike works for me as you see it now. Another thing I really like about the latest road bikes, and particularly bikes of the past 3 or 4 years with the most recent generation of group sets, is the ever-increasing gearing options, both in terms of range and the actual number of gears you get on your bike. And this leads me on to my choice of gearing for this build, which is mostly Ultegra 12-speed Di2 throughout, but with a bit of an upgrade to the chain set. which is a Dura race model with 5440 tooth chain rings and 165mm cranks. Now, it might seem ambitious for me with my 5440 tooth chain set. You're more likely to find that on a pro's bike, but I'd argue that with modern 12-speed cassettes that have plenty at the back, even an average chopper like me has enough range to get up most steep hills. The 40 ring at the front and the 34 tooth sprocket at the rear gives me a gear that would be comparable to riding probably about with a 36 ring of a mid-compact chain set and a 28 tooth sprocket at the back, which would be very generous gearing even a decade ago. As you might be able to tell, I'm not exactly a mountain goat and don't live in the hilliest part of the world, so for me, I have more than enough gears for most riding scenarios with this setup. And if I ever do decide to take on a huge hilly bucket list ride, I'll probably consider investing in a new smaller chain set and cassette. I say all of this, it's probably half of the reason I went for this setup. The other half being that this Dura race chain set I think just looks much cooler than the Ultegra one. In my head, I'd saved quite a bit of money buying the bike on my cycle to work scheme, so it was financially justifiable. It really wasn't, was it? Please don't tell my other half. On the subject of extravagant purchases, you might have noticed something going on at the rear mech, and that is a nice, shiny, oversized pulley system from Novaride. Do I need it? Nope. Will it make me faster? Nope. Does it look cool? In my opinion, yes. How cool is that? And again, perfectly financially justifiable because of the cycle to work thing. The seat post is dead as Superlegro carbon in 27.2mm diameter and 350mm length, which weighs just 185 grams and can house my Di2 battery inside nice and safely. Hopefully it will also give me some extra bump taming comfort and a slight drop in weight. Again, neither particularly essential, but it's just my preference. This saddle, a Selle Italia Carbonio Superflow, is probably a bit unusual for a road bike build as it's actually a triathlon saddle, as you might be able to tell from the Ironman logo here. It's perhaps not the most aesthetically pleasing saddle in the world and clashes a bit with the rest of the bike, but I just find this saddle super comfortable in any position, and I've put this on multiple bikes I've owned and tested in the past 2 or 3 years. I hope you've enjoyed this tour around my new bike. What do you think of it? What would you keep? What would you take away if it was yours? Let us know in the comments as always, and remember to like and subscribe to Road.cc for more content like this.